and we replaced it with a 1974 Seagrave fire truck, which looks today like, I don't want to say it looks like a real fire truck, but it's similar to the trucks today. In 1958, the company / town purchased a new Seagrave fire truck. We have some pictures in the watch station of that truck. It was an open cab truck, no roof. I remember a personal story. The first time I ever drove that truck to a fire, and that truck was a lot of fun to drive, and it was scary because a lot of guys wouldn't drive it because it was so big. But it had the open top, and I pulled it out of the bay in this building, and the first thing that hit me was a crosswind at about 0. It was freezing cold. So you had no roof. It was like driving your convertible when it's below 0. So we had that truck, and then we had the 1974 Seagrave fire truck. Then the 1958 Seagrave was replaced with a, do you remember when we got the Han? Was that when you were chief?
I think it was when Brennan was chief.
Jimmy Brennan was the chief then. Do you remember what year that was? 80, I want to say
81, 82.
81, 82. And we purchased that truck, and we took the large Seagrave out of service. And one of the things personally I kicked my rear end about is that truck was sold for like $1,500. And at that time, I was in my 20s. I was like, I'm going to buy that truck. And then I sat back and I thought, and I said, well, where am I going to put it? and unfortunately, because that was a beautiful truck, and I believe that ended up in the fire school up in Torrington, Burville. And from what I understand, it rotted.
How do you decide who gets to do the driving of the truck?
Well, actually, a lot of the members do.
Oh, you don't have to be the captain or?
No. Typically, it's going to be
You need a
your
special
more.
license?
In the state of Connecticut, you can have what they call a Q endorsement on your license, and you don't have to have a CDL today. That I can see that changing going down the road, but you take a class and you learn how to drive the truck. Driving the truck's the easy part. The class consists of parking it and going through I want to call it an obstacle course with cones and stuff, and you learn how to drive the truck. Typically, we like to have the drivers being a more experienced member, somebody who's been here for quite a while, because driving the truck, that's the easy part. The more difficult part is, what do you do with the truck once you get there? And that's why you want a more experienced person doing that job. And today we have probably, I want to say 20 drivers. Of course, not all of them come, which is a whole nother conversation, but probably 20 drivers.
When the firehouse was young on Great Hill, if there was a fire, there was a horn blown somewhere or something, everybody would run to get a truck. I mean, if you drove whatever, everybody had a truck back then. I mean, we're up here in farm country, and everybody would run to the firehouse, get a truck, get to the fire, and you learned that way from one person giving it to another person. Don't do this and don't do that. But that it a lot of times it got to be a match, who could get there first, you know?
Oh, there were definitely competitions.
That could take the truck, you know?
You mentioned that water, when you first started up here, getting the water to put the fire out was an issue. Has that been corrected? Is getting water in any part of the Great Hill area still an issue?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely it is.
There's no fire pumps up here.
In fact, we had a fire about a month ago on Bungay Road where somebody unfortunately lost their house. But the closest water was like a half a mile away. So we have a tanker truck that has 3,000 gallons of water in it. And then we had trucks from Oxford, Bethany, Beacon Falls. We even had a truck from Stevenson in Monroe here to shuttle water back and forth. And what people don't realize is, you know, you go to fight the fire, and it takes a crew of guys to fight the fire, but to set up other things that need to be done takes manpower. In the case of the fire a couple of weeks ago, when I pulled up, one of the engines was already in the driveway, and I parked my car on the corner of Canfield and Bungay Road. And with the experience that I have, I know they need water. So what we did is I waited for our tanker to come. Then on our tanker we have we call them portable ponds. It's a tank, a 3,500 gallon tank that we take off the truck. It's like a swimming pool, and it takes 3 people to open it up, and we set it in the middle of the road, and then the tanker backs up to the portable pond, and there's a big dump valve in the back of that tanker, and it'll unload that 3,000 gallons of water into that portable pond in about a minute and a half. So we fill the pond, and then the tanker's job is to go and get more water. And then we have our second pump stopped at that tank and would draft water out of that tank to deliver to the fire scene. And then the next tanker would come and dump, and once you got it set up, it doesn't run itself, but now 2 people can run it. But the problem is you got to set it up, and it takes a lot of manpower to do that. Whenever we have a fire, you have the 3 or 4 guys that actually go in and do the firefighting, and then you really need 10 or 12 guys to perform all the support functions, because everything has to get done. It's not, it's not go squirt water on the fire and go home. We do training every single week, every Tuesday night here. This past Tuesday night, in fact, we did kind of like an agility course where we pulled all the trucks out, parked them outside, and we set up 5 or 6 stations. And the guys had to put on all their gear, which consists of the boots, a pair of pants, coat, helmet, gloves, hood, and an air pack. And they had to go and perform the functions at each station. And it's things like one station, there's a chainsaw there. You got to start the chainsaw and get the chainsaw in operation. Another section was you had to roll out hose and then roll it back up again. Just different things to get you used to wearing. I don't know how many pounds the gear weighs. The gear probably weighs total with an air pack probably weighs an additional 65 to 70 pounds. So if you weigh 200 pounds, when you're wearing all the gear, you weigh 270 pounds. And, you have to be used to doing that. So we train constantly. In the days when Albert was a member, we primarily, you did car accidents, car fires, house fires, grass fires. Today, fighting fires is a very small portion of what we do. If you look at our statistics for 2017, the Seymour Fire Department responded to 540 alarms. So that averages out a little more than one a day. The Great Hill Hose Company responded to probably 400 of those. Because of the fact that in the environment today, there's not that many people knocking on our door to come in. And we get people to come in and they see what's involved, what they have to do. Back in the day when I first joined the company, the first fire I went to, I just went and fought the fire. And today, like Pete mentioned, you have to do 180 hours worth of training before you're allowed to do anything. And that's more of OSHA and a requirement. The typical training, a guy comes in, a typical training would be, what's it usually go, Pete? 2 days a week and then 1 day on weekends. And a class just started just 2 weeks ago for the beginning of the year, and they won't graduate until April or May. So it's 2 nights a week plus 1 day on the weekend from January until the end of April.
At least one 8-hour day, either Saturday or Sunday on a weekend. He tried to do them every other weekend.
So it's a big commitment, and a lot of guys come in here, and for years I've been on the committee that investigates, potential new members, where we do a background check, because you don't want somebody who's got a criminal record access to your house. So we do a criminal check, and then we explain what's going on. We explain the investment that the town puts in every new member. I think today the town invests in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $3,500 for every new member that walks into the building. And one of the things I always say is, are we going to get a return on our investment? Are we going to spend $3,500 on you and then have that throw away and we don't get any benefit from it? And quite honestly, we get new members who come in here. Once they see what's required, you don't see them anymore. But unfortunately now they have a set of gear. They have all that equipment. So it's...
There's more than just looks to this whole process. That's why you'll read a fire, Oxford had a fire, Southbury showed up, Seymour showed up, all these companies, and this is something you learn and everybody knows that what's coming. In other words, if you got a fire in a certain area, somebody's coming to help you, because that's all talked about. Water, you need water sometimes. So there's always a company. Beacon Falls will help Seymour will help Ansonia, Derby, Oxford, Southbury. Everybody helps each other when it comes to going back to what he was saying is water. If you get to an area, especially on Great Hill, there's a couple of ponds, but there's no hydrants. So you've got other companies in other towns that are waiting. Oxford would be probably the first one that would send a truck. And depending on the size of the fire, because you use the fire water out in one truck, and if you don't go add any more water, you're not, it doesn't get done. So everybody knows, we know who we go help when that would need water. Seymour would come up from downtown here, we'd go there, you'd go to Oxford, you'd go to, because everybody needs water, because if there's no fire hydrants, if you get up in the country, there's no fire hydrants. You know where there's a pond. Everybody knows where there's a pond, that if they needed water. And it's all when there's no fires, that's what we do. That's what's going, is figuring out this mess, figuring out that, this problem here, what would happen there, what would go on here. And the more you talk about it, the more people you got 50 members, and everybody's got an idea of how to correct it. Well, some of them work, some of them don't. So you figure out what's best. And water is a very large problem. They have a truck that's got enough water. How many trucks do you need to hook up to a hydrant? Sometimes there's 2 or 3 trucks that would run a cycle of line to the the truck that's fighting the actual fire. So it's all, people say, oh, look at that nice building, but you're here to learn all these, not having to do it, or have to learn it when it happens, And you go back years. We used to fight grass fires with a hand pump. My father was working for the state. He had and we'd always get $1 or $2, whatever, just for doing it. Well, back then, $1 was a lot of money. And but again, it goes back to water. You got a tank of water that you use it. There's no more tank of water. So all of this is all school up into solving all these problems that when there's a fire, it's bad enough there's a fire if you can't get there to help it.
Speaking variances, what was the worst fire that you can recall that you fought?
Balance Rock, for me.
Balance.
Building 50 at Balance Rock.
What year was that?
Now you make it hard.
It has to be about 1987, because I was dating my wife then, so.
Well, that one down on Derby Avenue, that fire, remember?
Yeah, but that didn't bother me much, because I wasn't in charge.
That was a very large.
Rutkin Wiley, with the
It was a
cans were
fiberglass,
blowing up.
it was a fiberglass manufacturer. I was too young to be a member then, but I went with my father down there, and that was the first big fire that I ever
Which
saw.
one? Which
Rutkin
one?
Ruck and Wiley down on Derby Avenue.
Oh, yeah, that was. Then the
Bowling,
vacuum cleaner company up here.
that was
Yeah,
a
that
nasty one. yeah.
That was, you talk about water and everything else, you start getting out with water spraying in a cold night when it's really cold, and you start freezing, and you keep going. Those are the things that
You never take your gloves off.
You think about the most memorable fires and stuff, and the big fires like the first 5 minutes it's cool, holy cow, look at that. And there's a lot of work that goes on to get set up to fight a fire like that. And then it's like, it's boring because you're just pouring water on it, and you're going to be there for 10 hours just watching it. To me, the things that get to me the most is when there's somebody involved, the people. I think one of my worst experiences was there was a fire up on Quaker Farms Road in Oxford. It was a house. It's where I think it's where it's a open space now. It's near where the Oxford High School is. There was a house way down a long driveway in the woods. And when we got there, they said that there's, I believe it was a 2-year-old in the building. And we went in and tried to search as much as we could, but you know, half the house was totally in flames. And they ended up finding I believe it was a little girl right underneath the window where we were trying to search. But by that time, you know, there was nothing you could do with that. Those are the
That's
things that bother
When
me.
you have to,
Is it the smoke?
when you have to keep going, and you know, that there was a car fire over on Bungay Road, and we all got there, and the fire marshal, Louis, was ahead of us. I don't know if you remember that? And the car was on fire, and we started up the driveway, and he grabbed me, and he said, "Stop." I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "A little boy sitting right inside that car." He says, "It's too late to help him." And you say to yourself, "Why wasn't I here 10 minutes more?" You know? But those are the things you do, and we have fun on a lot of other things, but there's always those problems that you still have to face it.
Is it the smoke that
Usually,
Usually, yeah, you don't, when you have a situation like that, you die from smoke inhalation long before you could burn. But,
Well, this
You
is
know.
parents were in this one over here on Buggy Road, and the parents ran in the house for a minute, and I don't know why, but that's when the car started on fire, when the little boy was sitting in it. And it's things you have to figure that one day you're going to run into it.
Besides fighting the fires that you do, I know there's a lot of things that you also do to help the community,
When-
other than that.
that's
Talk a little
where
about that.
my current role as president comes in. Going back about 8 or 9 years ago, what used to happen with the structure of the company is you have fire chiefs, and the fire chiefs are really town of Seymour. When you're a fire chief and the town has 4 fire chiefs, your responsibilities are responsibilities with the town, not so much the companies. Then we would have 3 officers at the company level, which would be 2 lieutenants and a captain. And up until 9 years ago, the captain was responsible for everything. Anything that happened in this building was the captain's responsibility. Now, when you look at how the company is structured, and Citizens Engine Company is structured the same way today, we decided, okay, we have what I want to call a social end of the company and the firefighting end of the company. So we split that and said, okay, there's going to be somebody in charge of the social end. And when I say the social end, it's fundraising, it's community events, it's upkeep of the building, and that falls on the president. So some of the events that we hold annually are, we have a Christmas tree lighting, usually the week after Thanksgiving. We have an Easter egg hunt. We also do what we call Santa Claus Sunday, when we drive all around all the areas of Great Hill and throw popcorn balls at kids and take pictures, and it's always a fun event. We decided at Christmas time as kind of a fundraising thing, but where we have the residents of town come to us and give us a Christmas present to deliver to their kids. So they bring a Christmas present, they give us a $10 donation, and we take Santa Claus and we go and deliver the gifts. We had a great time doing that, you know.
You got a good response?
We had a good response. Everywhere we stopped, all the neighbors would come out and say, "What are you doing?" And we said what we're doing. "Oh, we're going to do that next year." So I have a feeling it's going to grow quite a bit. Well, the firefighting is, you know, I like to say everything on that side of this wall is funded by the town through the annual budget. The stuff that you see here is all funded by us. All our different events during the year are funded by us, and we do our fundraising. At times we do fundraising to help buy something that the town won't buy us. But really, a lot of the fundraising today is to support our other activities.
For years, we
Community
ran
activities.
was it once a month on a Monday night?
Right.
We had a drawing of money. And that was all to raise money to help you do what you had to do. But people were invited. You'd fill this, at one point, you'd fill this building, this room up with people that would come and we'd draw the money at the you know, whatever it was. I forget even what do you remember what the amount was when you won, if you won something?
Once, I believe it was $300.
Yeah, that was the whole thing.
And that went on,
No, that was one prize,
that was one prize.
prize,
We
right?
gave around, I believe we gave away
like $600.
$500 or $600. There were 1,000 numbers, and that was a fundraising that I don't know when it started.
Oh.
It's got to be probably in the
It started over the old
1950s.
fire, didn't it? It started
And-
over the old firehouse.
And today, that
I came to spaghetti dinners here.
yeah, we used to run spaghetti dinners.
And any last thoughts about the fire department, about your work here, about Great Hill? If you were to think of like one word to describe how you feel about it or your experience, what would that be?
I can't say it in one word. If I had to, one word would be a lot of fun. But I built my best circle of friends that anybody could have. Is right here.
How about you, Pete?
I keep hanging in, I keep enjoying it.
And Albert?
I think it was one of the better things I've done in my life. It's we helped a lot of people, we had a lot of fun, and we worked at it. And as a bunch of guys get together, sometimes they're a little bit touched, you think. But it's just work can make you happy if it's helping people.
Special kind of person, right, as a firefighter.
Yeah.
And we as the citizens, the town of Seymour, thank you for all of your years of helping us and keeping us safe and protecting us. So thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
We try.
You're welcome.